and that Fergie must go it alone. And I said that's an expensive mistake, because for the sake of a few million quid, he could have taken care of Fergie, at which point the family secrets remain just that. The problem with Sarah Ferguson, Paul, is that she knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah, she's been out, didn't they get married at about 86?
A fresh royal controversy is reportedly brewing behind palace doors, and according to insiders, the tension is growing fast. Rumors continue to swirl around private disagreements involving money, family loyalty, and long-standing personal issues that some believe could create one of the monarchy's most uncomfortable situations in recent years. At the center of the speculation is Sarah Ferguson, a woman who has spent decades navigating headlines, public scrutiny, and life close to the royal spotlight. According to various reports, conversations are increasing about the possibility of future interviews, television projects, or even a memoir that could finally give Sarah the opportunity to share her side of some of the most dramatic moments in modern royal history. Industry insiders claim that publishers and broadcasters would likely offer huge sums for exclusive access to her story because of her unique connection to the royal family. That possibility alone has reportedly sparked concern among some royal observers who wonder what new information could potentially come to light. What makes this situation so intriguing is that it goes beyond the idea of another royal book. Commentators suggest the real focus is on what fresh details could emerge if someone with decades of first-hand experience decided to speak openly about events that have fascinated the public for years. Sarah has lived through royal weddings, family disagreements, intense media coverage, public scandals, and several of the monarchy's most turbulent periods. Very few people have witnessed so many major events from such a close position. Because of that, every rumor connected to a possible memoir seems to generate immediate attention. Reports also suggest that financial considerations may be adding another layer to the speculation. Sarah's finances have often been discussed publicly over the years, and commentators note that major media opportunities can become especially appealing when significant financial rewards are involved. Whether any actual agreement is currently being discussed remains unclear, but the rumors continue to gain momentum.
She's going to need to make money. This six-figure fee will become 7 figures the juicier the gossip is.
Yes.
So she's going to be sort of pushed towards saying as much as she possibly can.
So we don't know what the AWOP sort of no skin in the game, loose cannon Fergie's going to do. She's under financial pressure as well, and that's the biggest thing, is when people need money, they will do anything.
According to royal watchers, the possibility of a major tell-all project has naturally raised questions about how the palace might respond. Some believe the institution would prefer to keep private family matters out of the public spotlight whenever possible. Others argue that the monarchy has survived countless controversies before and would ultimately continue forward regardless of any new disclosures. Either way, the subject has become difficult to ignore. What has pushed speculation even further are claims that Sarah may possess personal recollections, private correspondence, and unique observations regarding events that remain heavily debated to this day. While such claims are often difficult to verify, they continue to fuel public curiosity. It is important to note that many of these reports rely on anonymous sources and unconfirmed accounts rather than publicly verified evidence. Even so, the suggestion that additional information could someday surface has kept royal followers paying close attention to every development. For now, much of the discussion remains based on speculation, rumor, and competing narratives. Still, according to commentators, one thing appears certain. Whenever conversations involving money, memoirs, and royal secrets begin circulating at the same time, the story rarely stays quiet for very long. And if any new revelations ever emerge, they could easily reopen debates surrounding some of the monarchy's most controversial chapters once again. According to royal analysts, one of the biggest reasons this story continues attracting attention is the belief that Sarah Ferguson possesses decades of personal memories and first-hand observations from inside royal circles. Having spent years connected to the family, she witnessed major events, shifting relationships, and historic moments that very few outsiders ever experienced. That alone makes any potential memoir, documentary, or interview a subject of enormous public interest. Reports suggest some observers believe Sarah could offer unique perspectives on important figures within the monarchy, including King Charles III, Queen Camilla, and other senior royals. Whether she would ever choose to discuss those experiences in significant detail remains unknown. However, the possibility that new insights could emerge from someone so closely connected to the institution continues to drive endless discussion among royal watchers and media outlets alike. For a monarchy that constantly balances tradition with modern public expectations, any major disclosure can create a wave of attention.
We also had this extraordinary moment where her father was sleeping with a woman called Leslie Player, who was sleeping with a man called Steve Wyatt at the same time, who was sleeping at the same time with Sarah Ferguson. And then they discovered this. Leslie Player discovered that, there was a certain sort of family, shall we say, relationship.
Royal commentators often point out that even relatively small revelations can dominate headlines across multiple countries. Because of that, speculation surrounding a large-scale memoir or exclusive interview naturally generates intense interest. At the same time, reports suggest there may be differing opinions within royal circles regarding how situations like this should be approached. According to observers, some favor a careful strategy focused on preserving family relationships and avoiding unnecessary public conflict. Others believe the institution must respond more firmly whenever controversy risks overshadowing its broader responsibilities. This is where discussions involving Prince William frequently enter the conversation. Royal analysts often describe William as someone focused heavily on the monarchy's long-term future and the importance of maintaining public trust in the institution. Because of that reputation, commentators regularly speculate about how he may approach challenges differently than previous generations. According to reports, questions involving accountability, transparency, and public perception have become increasingly important as the monarchy adapts to changing expectations. Observers suggest these issues can occasionally create tension between competing priorities, protecting family relationships on one side and protecting the institution's reputation on the other. While there is no confirmed evidence of any dramatic confrontation taking place behind palace walls, commentators note that differing opinions about handling public controversies are common within large organizations. What appears to outsiders as a simple disagreement may actually reflect larger discussions about strategy, leadership, and the future direction of the monarchy. And according to royal watchers, that broader question may ultimately be what makes this entire story so fascinating. It is not simply about one possible memoir or one rumored family dispute. It is about how the monarchy chooses to manage sensitive challenges during a period when every decision faces unprecedented public attention and scrutiny. Royal commentators also note that one reason this situation continues attracting headlines is because it touches on a much larger debate about how the monarchy has handled difficult family controversies throughout the years. Critics and supporters often disagree sharply on whether private resolutions help protect the institution or simply delay larger problems until later. That debate has become even more relevant as public expectations surrounding openness and transparency continue to evolve. Some observers argue that royal families, like many high-profile institutions, have historically preferred resolving sensitive matters quietly whenever possible. The reasoning, according to supporters of that approach, is often simple. Reduce unnecessary distractions and preserve stability during challenging periods. Keeping family disputes out of the headlines may help reduce media pressure and prevent long-running public battles. But according to many commentators, that approach can sometimes create a different problem altogether. Critics often argue that when issues are handled quietly, it can leave the public wondering whether problems have truly been solved or simply moved out of sight. One topic that frequently sparks debate involves financial assistance provided to family members during difficult periods. Over the years, various reports have suggested that private resources have occasionally been used to help relatives facing personal, legal, or reputational challenges. While many details remain confidential, the discussion continues to raise questions about accountability and responsibility inside one of the world's most closely watched families. According to royal observers, King Charles III is often portrayed as someone who values stability above all else. Supporters describe him as a leader focused on preventing family disagreements from turning into full-scale public crises. They argue that protecting the institution sometimes requires calm solutions rather than public confrontations. Critics, however, see things differently.
I would say there are lots of members of the royal family, both working royals and non-working royals, who manage to live life slightly under the radar and just do their duty. And it's the old trope of public duty and private pleasure. And Sarah Ferguson comes into private pleasure, as you say. She's our guilty pleasure because she's the naughty girl who we think gets away with.
Some believe that resolving sensitive matters behind closed doors can create the impression that difficult situations are being managed quietly instead of being addressed openly. That debate has become one of the biggest talking points surrounding the modern monarchy. This is where comparisons with Prince William frequently enter the conversation. Royal analysts often describe William as someone strongly focused on the future of the institution and maintaining public trust. Because of that reputation, many commentators believe he places particular importance on transparency, accountability, and avoiding situations that could create long-term reputational damage. Whether those characterizations are completely accurate remains open to interpretation. Still, they continue to appear in discussions about how different generations of royals may approach challenges in very different ways. According to observers, these contrasts reflect larger questions about modernization and the changing expectations facing public institutions today. As a result, whenever a new controversy emerges, attention quickly shifts beyond the immediate issue. The public begins asking bigger questions. How should the monarchy respond? What lessons were learned from previous controversies? And do traditional methods still work in an age where every headline spreads around the world within minutes? Royal watchers say that is exactly why stories involving memoirs, exclusive interviews, financial arrangements, and family disagreements continue generating enormous attention. These stories are no longer just about individual personalities. They have become part of a much larger conversation about the monarchy's future and how it plans to navigate increasingly complex challenges. According to royal commentators, understanding the fascination surrounding Sarah Ferguson's finances requires looking back over decades of headlines and public scrutiny. Discussions about spending habits, business ventures, debts, and financial setbacks have followed her for years, helping shape one of the most talked about narratives connected to her public image. Sarah has openly discussed financial difficulties she faced following her separation from Prince Andrew. Reports throughout different stages of her life described mounting financial obligations, business pressures, and the challenge of maintaining a public profile while dealing with significant monetary concerns. Over time, these stories became a regular part of media coverage surrounding the Duchess of York. According to commentators, much of the fascination comes from a major misconception. Many people assume anyone connected to royalty automatically enjoys endless financial security. In reality, several members of the extended royal family have had to pursue business opportunities, professional projects, and independent income sources outside official royal funding structures. Former staff accounts and media reports have also contributed to stories involving luxury lifestyles and expensive habits. While some of these claims remain difficult to verify fully, they have become part of the broader public narrative that critics often reference when discussing Sarah's financial history. Supporters push back against many of those claims. They argue that certain stories have been exaggerated over time or presented without important context. According to observers, once financial difficulties become part of someone's public image, even ordinary expenses can suddenly attract extraordinary attention. Luxury travel, upscale accommodations, and appearances within high-profile social circles often become headline material whenever money-related questions are already circulating. Through that lens, even routine decisions can be interpreted far differently than they might be for someone outside the public eye. According to reports, Sarah has previously acknowledged struggles with spending and has spoken about emotional influences that affected some of her financial decisions. Commentators suggest those admissions offered a more complicated and human picture than the simplified version often portrayed in tabloid coverage. At the same time, financial pressures can naturally create motivation for new business ventures, publishing opportunities, television appearances, and other projects that generate income. That reality applies to many people. However, when someone remains connected to one of the world's most famous families, every opportunity attracts far greater public interest. For royal observers, this is where the current speculation becomes especially intriguing. Discussions surrounding potential memoirs, interviews, documentaries, and exclusive media projects are not taking place in isolation. They are being viewed through the backdrop of decades of financial challenges, public scrutiny, and recurring debates about money. And according to commentators, that long history is one of the biggest reasons every new rumor continues generating intense attention today. Meanwhile, another major question continues to dominate discussion among royal watchers. How would the monarchy respond if concerns about future disclosures or major media projects ever became serious enough to require action? Royal commentators have proposed countless theories. Some imagine private conversations taking place behind palace doors. Others speculate about more formal arrangements that could potentially reduce the risk of further public controversy. Importantly, much of this remains speculation rather than confirmed fact. Many observers believe King Charles generally favors practical solutions when dealing with difficult family situations. Throughout his reign, he has often been portrayed as someone focused on maintaining stability and avoiding unnecessary public conflict whenever possible. Supporters argue that this approach protects the institution during periods of intense scrutiny and helps prevent distractions from overshadowing its broader responsibilities. Critics, however, sometimes describe the strategy as overly cautious and question whether quiet solutions always serve the public interest. According to commentators, these competing views continue fueling debate about how future controversies should be managed. If personal financial pressures were ever to intersect with sensitive family matters, some observers believe discrete solutions could prevent larger problems from developing. Others argue that any arrangement perceived as rewarding controversy could create even more criticism instead of reducing it. Reports also suggest that discussions surrounding privacy, confidentiality, and public disclosures are common whenever high-profile figures are involved. Across many industries, agreements are often designed to protect private information and reduce the possibility of sensitive details becoming public knowledge. Whether anything similar exists in this particular situation remains unknown. Yet despite the lack of confirmed evidence, the topic continues generating speculation, discussion, and endless curiosity among royal watchers eager to learn what might happen next. What makes this entire debate so fascinating is the contrast royal commentators constantly highlight between King Charles and Prince William. According to many observers, Charles is often seen as someone who favors stability, patience, and gradual solutions when difficult situations arise. William, on the other hand, is frequently portrayed as being more focused on long-term accountability, modernization, and protecting the institution's future reputation. Whether those descriptions are completely accurate is impossible to know from the outside. Still, they have become one of the biggest talking points in ongoing discussions about where the monarchy is heading next. According to royal watchers, this larger question may ultimately matter far more than any single rumor, financial discussion, or headline-grabbing controversy. At its core, the debate centers on how the monarchy handles pressure, balances family loyalty with public expectations, and adapts to a world where private matters can become global news almost instantly. And if disagreements over those issues continue to grow behind the scenes, they could influence the direction of the institution for many years to come. What makes the timing even more remarkable is that these conversations are unfolding while the monarchy faces increasing pressure to modernize and maintain public confidence. Royal commentators often point out that senior royals today operate under a level of scrutiny that previous generations could hardly imagine. Every major decision is examined in real time. Every public appearance is analyzed. Every statement is picked apart across news outlets, television programs, and social media platforms around the world. According to observers, public expectations regarding transparency, accountability, and financial responsibility have changed dramatically over the years. The institution is no longer judged by the standards of the past. Instead, it is constantly being measured against modern expectations that continue evolving with every passing year. This places King Charles in a particularly challenging position. On one side, he remains the head of a family shaped by decades of complicated relationships, personal loyalties, and shared experiences. On the other, he carries the responsibility of protecting the reputation of one of the world's most recognizable institutions. According to commentators, those two responsibilities do not always align perfectly. The tension between family obligations and public expectations becomes especially visible whenever controversy captures widespread attention. Situations that may once have remained private can now become international talking points within hours. Every move attracts scrutiny, every decision invites debate, and every perceived mistake can generate headlines across multiple countries almost overnight. At the same time, Prince William is increasingly viewed as the face of the monarchy's future. Royal analysts frequently describe him as someone focused on strengthening public confidence and ensuring the institution remains relevant for generations to come. Because of that perception, many observers believe William places enormous importance on avoiding situations that could damage credibility or create lasting reputational challenges. Whether fair or not, that image has become deeply connected to public conversations about his role within the royal family. This is one reason stories involving memoirs, interviews, financial arrangements, and family disagreements continue generating so much attention. They are rarely viewed as isolated incidents. Instead, they become symbols of a much larger debate about what kind of monarchy will emerge in the future and how it will respond to the challenges of a rapidly changing world. According to royal watchers, the current discussion reflects two very different leadership philosophies. One approach prioritizes stability, family unity, and carefully managing sensitive situations. The other places greater emphasis on accountability, modernization, and establishing clearer expectations regarding public conduct and responsibility. Neither path is without risk. Both have supporters, and both carry potential consequences that could shape the monarchy's future in very different ways. For now, no one knows exactly how these debates will unfold, but one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The decisions being made today extend far beyond any single controversy or headline. They are helping shape the future direction of the monarchy itself. And according to commentators, that reality explains why every new development continues attracting such intense attention from royal watchers around the globe. What makes this story especially compelling is that it touches on some of the biggest questions facing the monarchy today. According to royal commentators, the issue is no longer simply about one person, one rumor, or one possible financial arrangement. It has evolved into a much broader conversation about leadership, accountability, family loyalty, and the institution's long-term future. On one side are those who believe protecting the monarchy sometimes requires quiet solutions that prevent unnecessary public conflict. Supporters of that approach argue that preserving stability must remain the highest priority whenever the institution faces challenges. On the other side are those who believe transparency and accountability should come first, even when difficult conversations or uncomfortable consequences follow. They argue that public trust is strengthened when concerns are addressed openly rather than behind closed doors. According to observers, this is why discussions involving King Charles and Prince William continue attracting so much attention. They are often portrayed as representing different ways of approaching difficult situations within the royal family. Whether that perception is entirely accurate or not, it has become one of the defining themes in conversations about the monarchy's future. At the center of much of the speculation remains Sarah Ferguson. Decades after first entering royal life, she continues to be a figure who generates headlines, sparks debate, and leaves people asking questions about her experiences, her perspective, and her place within the larger royal story. Royal analysts note that the real stakes stretch far beyond any single rumor. The choices made today could influence how future controversies are handled, how public trust is maintained, and how the monarchy balances private family matters with growing demands for openness and accountability. Those are not small questions. In fact, they may become some of the most important questions the institution faces in the years ahead. For now, many claims connected to this story remain unverified, and much of the conversation continues to be driven by speculation rather than confirmed facts. But that has not stopped royal watchers from following every twist, every report, and every new development with intense interest. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you believe protecting family privacy should remain a priority, or should complete transparency always come first? And how do you think King Charles and Prince William should handle future controversies involving the royal family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.